Hey guys, it's Miss Clark again. This is our last reading video of the 2019-2020 school year. This is the last chapter the last two chapters, of Sideways Stories from Wayside School. And to be honest, I'm kind of sad to see it go. But I really like this book, even though we've already read it together as a group. It's always fun to read it again and answer questions about it. So let's look at chapters 29 and 30. And chapter 29 is Stephen. He's really quirky and he's one of my favorite characters. So excited to read about him. All right, chapter 29, Stephen. Number 1, why does Stephen have green hair, purple ears, and a blue face? Number 2, what happens to the chalk? Number 3, what steps off the screen and into the classroom? And then number 4, why do the kids call Stephen a hero? All right, let's take a look. So, Stephen had green hair. He had purple ears and a blue face. He wore his sister's pink dancing shoes and green leotards. The leotards matched his hair. He was all dressed up as a goblin for Mrs. Jewls' Halloween party. But unfortunately, it wasn't Halloween. Ha ha ha, you sure look stupid, said Jason. Jason was Stephen's best friend. Well, that's not nice. So do you, said Stephen. Boy, are you dumb, said Jenny. Halloween is on Sunday. Today is only Friday. You're the one who's dumb, said Stephen. Ha ha, you probably come to school on Sunday. Mrs. Jewls said we'd have the party today, but none of the other children wore costumes. Only Stephen. All right, class, said Miss Jewls. It is time for a Halloween party. See, said Stephen. Miss Jewls gave each child a cookie that looked like an orange witch with a black hat. She laughed when she saw Stephen and forgot to give him one. Stephen didn't ask for it. He was afraid that she'd laugh again. The children finished their cookies in less than 30 seconds. All right, class, said Miss Jewls. The party is over. We have a lot of work to do. Stephen felt like a fool. The party lasted less than a minute, and he had to spend the rest of the day wearing his stupid goblin suit. Look, Stephen's wearing his sister's leotards, laughed Dana. They're green, just like his hair, said Fatso. Everyone laughed. Mrs. Jewls began the arithmetic lesson. She wrote on the blackboard, 2 plus 2 equals 5. That's wrong, Joy shouted. Miss Jewls tried again. 2 plus 2 equals 3. That wasn't right either. She added 2 and 2 again and got 43. It was useless. No matter how hard she tried, she could not get 2 plus 2 to equal 4. Well then. I don't understand it, she said. They've always equaled 4 before. Suddenly, she screamed. The chalk turned into a squiggling worm. She dropped it on her foot. Then all the lights went out, and the blackboard lit up like a movie screen. A woman appeared on the screen. She had a long tongue and pointed ears. She stepped off the screen and into the classroom. It was the ghost of Mrs. Gorf. Mrs. Gorf ran her fingernails across the blackboard. Trick or treat, you rotten kids, she said. Now I'll get even with every last one of you. Where's Todd? Who is that? Asked Mrs. Jewls. Mrs. Gorf, said Damien. Who's Mrs. Gorf? Asked Mrs. Jewls. She was the meanest teacher we ever had, said Rondi. What happened to her? Asked Mrs. Jewls. Louis ate her, said Jason. Well, I'm not going to allow this, said Mrs. Jewls. Get out of my classroom, she demanded. It's Halloween, sweet teacher, said Mrs. Gorf. Ghosts can go anywhere they like. I've come for a little class reunion. But it isn't Halloween, said Mrs. Jewls. Halloween is still 2 days away. I know, said Mrs. Gorf, but Halloween falls on a Sunday this year, so we're celebrating it on the Friday before. Stephen leaped up from his seat. See, I was right, he said. Today is the day we celebrate it. The Friday before. Mrs. Gorf proved it. He ran up to Mrs. Gorf. They all laughed at me and made me feel stupid because I was the only one who got dressed up. But they were the ones who were wrong. You and I are right. He put his arms around Mrs. Gorf and hugged her. Mrs. Gorf gasped and disappeared. The lights came back on. Mrs. Jewls picked up the piece of chalk from the floor. She wrote on the blackboard, 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's good, she said. When 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, anything can happen. All the children who had laughed at Stephen now called him a hero, but they told him to change out of his stupid costume. So at lunch, Stephen went home, washed up, and changed. He came back wearing blue jeans and a polo shirt. Of course, his hair was still green. It always was. All right, so chapter 29, Stephen. So number 1, why does Stephen have green hair, purple ears, and a blue face? Well, he's dressed as a goblin for Miss Jewls' Halloween party. Number 2, what happens to the chalk? It gets taken over, I think, by Mrs. Gorf and keeps saying 2 plus 2 does not equal 4. Number 3, what steps off the screen into the classroom? Mrs. Gorf's ghost. And then number 4, why do the kids call Stephen a hero? Because he gets rid of Mrs. Gorf. All right, so don't forget to draw that lovely character of Stephen. And then now we get to learn about Lewis. I like Lewis too, because he's the only, not crazy one. All right, chapter 30, Lewis. So, let's look at the questions first. It says, what is Lewis's job? Number 2, what does Lewis tell a story about? And number 3, what makes the story funny in real life? All right. Lewis had a red face and a mustache of many colors. He was the art teacher at Wayside School. It was his job to see that the children didn't have too much fun during lunch and recess. And if you haven't already guessed, he is the one who wrote this book. On June 10th, there was a blizzard. Lewis was afraid that children would have too much fun, so nobody was allowed outside. Class, said Mrs. Jules, after you finish your lunch today, come back up to the classroom. You are not allowed outside. The children all went to the lunchroom. Miss Mush had made tuna a surprise. They looked at it, then hurried back up the stairs. There was nothing to do. Now, class, said Miss Jules, I know that you are all bored, but I have a special surprise for you. I hope it's better than tuna surprise, said Maricia. Miss Jules continued. Lewis is going to come up and entertain us. He would tell us a story. Now, I want you all to be on your best behavior. Lewis walked in. All the children booed. Boo! Are you going to tell us a story? Asked Beebe. Yes, said Lewis. Well, it better be good, Beebe warned. It better be better than the tuna surprise, said Butterfingers. I thought the tuna surprise was good, said Lewis. You'd eat dirt if they put enough ketchup on it, said Mac. Hey, everybody be quiet, said Todd. Let him tell the story. Not too loud, Lewis, said Sherry. I'm trying to get some sleep. Lewis sat in the middle of the room, and all the children gathered around. Lewis began his story. This is a story about a school, very much like this one. But before we get started, there is something you ought to know so that you don't get confused. In this, we're on the back cover now. School, every classroom is on the same story. Which one, the 18th? Asked Jenny. No, said Lewis. They are all on the ground. The school is only 1 story high. Not much of a school, laughed Damien. Lewis continued. Now, you might think the children there are strange and silly. That's probably true. However, when I told them stories about you, they thought that you were strange and silly. Us? The children answered. How are we strange? I'm normal, said Stephen. Aren't I? As normal as I am, Joe assured him. Children in that school must be crazy, said Leslie. Real Lulus, Mauricia agreed. Tell us about them, Lewis, Beebe demanded. For one thing, Lewis said, none of these children have ever been turned into an apple. Oh, that's silly, said Dee Dee. Everybody's been turned into an apple. It's part of growing up. Lewis continued. Dead rats don't walk into classrooms wearing raincoats. What do they wear, tuxedos? Asked Todd. Tuxedo's like a suit, like you'd wear to a wedding or something. And girls never try to sell their toes, Lewis added. Well, no wonder, said Leslie, at today's prices. Lewis continued. They don't trade names or read upside down. They can't turn mosquito bites into numbers. They don't count the hairs on their heads. The walls don't laugh. And 2 plus 2 always equals 4. How horrible, said Damien. That's not the worst of it, said Lewis. They have never tasted Maricia-flavored ice cream. A hush fell over the classroom. Miss Jules, I'm scared, said Allison. Is there really a school like that? Of course not, said Miss Jules. Lewis was just telling a story. It was a good story, said Leslie. I thought it was stupid, said Kathy. I liked it, said Rondi. It was funny. Miss Jules said, Lewis, it was a very entertaining story, but we don't really go in for fairy tales here. I'm trying to teach my class the truth. That's all right, said Lewis. I have to go down to room 29 now and tell them a story. He started out the door. Class, said Miss Jules, let's all thank Lewis for his wonderful story. Everybody booed. Boo. All right, so that's the end of the book, but we haven't quite finished yet. It's chapter 30. What is Lewis's job? Well, he's the yard teacher, so he monitors everybody at recess. Number 2, what does Lewis tell a story about? He tells a story about regular kids, I'd say. Number 3, what makes the story funny in real life? Well, that's a tough one. I guess it's because they think that we are weird, but we think they're weird. I think that's the funny part. All right, so you can draw Lewis. on your character card. And that's all for those chapters and all for this book. So I can't wait to see you guys at our end of year meeting. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.